Hello to everyone watching this footage. It's Leviathan here again. And to start things off, I'm going to introduce myself to newcomers. I'm high-functioning autistic. I'm obsessed with fiction, and I'm planning to make my own creative universe like the late Stan Lee did. This particular footage is going to be another one of those miscellaneous footages and such. Just recently, my parents visited my youngest brother Benjamin, who was successful at boot camp and was practically so successful on behalf of the army and such. And while I was visiting them and watching Benjamin in action and such, I felt that he was more together in life than I was because, yes, I have approximately 2.4k views as of right now for this video, as far as I know. And 11 of you guys who have seen this is all the way in the United Kingdom. But I still feel like I need, if I was out of the equation, would you guys truly care for my creations? It's good that you want to compliment me and such, but I don't want you guys to be too biased, if that makes sense. I'd like you to accept my creations for how they are, whether or not I was even in the equation. I know it's going to be a long shot for me to be anywhere close to being as successful as Stan Lee and such, but imagine countless species across infinite realities relying on you to make sure that you make them exist at all. Imagine being, whether or not you exist at all being like a 50-50 balance between existing ever and never existing to begin with. I need to make it up to them. Since I made them exist, I'd like to preserve their existence, and since I'm mortal, I have a set time limit for me to do so, and I hope I would be anywhere as close to that successful by the next 10 years approximately. I just hope that this podcast and my blog and my illustrations and all that stuff would help in terms of showing my work to the public and such. Because so far, the 11 in the UK is great. It's phenomenal how it was that distant. But the fact that it stayed on 11 for an undisclosed amount of time makes me wonder, is there anything I have to change? I have to add or remove for you guys and such? Because I don't want to seem desperate, but at the same time, I'd like to feel the glory. In terms of the butterfly effect, I'd like to make sure I'm going down the right paths for the right outcome and having to be strategic with every choice I make. And I just hope that this reality would be successful for my creations. I know it's successful in a reality. I just hope this reality would count as well, because I don't want my creations to feel like chalk lines on the concrete, or a stick figure on a piece of paper and the paper was discarded and tossed in the trash. I don't want my creations to feel that way. I don't want them to feel like a farce, or whether or not they ever deserve to be just makes them disposable, because I want to give them a chance, and I want to provide for them. Every last one of them. I made them exist, and I have to make things work on their behalf. In the next 5 years, I would have to get a short-term occupation, and 5 years after that, supposedly at least, I would like to pitch my creations to some media corporation. It doesn't have to be as skilled as Marvel and DC in terms of popularity, as long as it's some form of social recognition that's more than just my podcast and blog. I know that my autism has its ups and downs. And I just hope that it would be an advantage for you guys wanting to care more about my creations. Again, without anyone being biased about it. Just imagine the glory of being able to make entire franchises and being praised for putting that much effort in life, to the point where people would remember you even after who knows how long after you have passed away. Not just Stan Lee, but every person who was ever successful in life. They were all successful because they earned it. Otherwise, what's even the point? I just hope that in this reality, I would earn some chance of having social success. It doesn't have to be movies or video games or comic books or anything like that. As long as it feels like I have made some worth on behalf of this life that I have here, and on behalf of my creations, in order to make sure that they don't cease altogether. And hopefully, once my midlife crisis comes along, it wouldn't leave me suffering so morbidly, because just imagine half of your life being done and nothing to show for it. It's just sinister. Makes you wonder if you're doing anything right. I just hope that once my midlife comes into play, I just hope I don't suffer as much as some people would end up going through in terms of the anguish of half of your life, like half of your life being done. Not only do I want my creations to flourish, I also like to be there to see them flourish, so that way I can feel some self-esteem and some good worth in this life. And imagine the glory of someone who you never knew in your life congratulating you for things that you did, to the point where you inspired them to do their own thing, because you did good on your own thing that they decided to do their own. If that makes any sense, like, it would make you feel like you mattered in this life. And yet sometimes I feel like I'm doomed to the house of the rising sun. One foot on the platform, the other's on the train. I'm going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. I just want to feel like I'm doing something right in this life. And yes, I have made some morbid mistakes in my past, but I hope that in terms of the butterfly effect, I hope I get the right outcome. In terms of the right fate, the right calculations and such, because one stumble is all it would take to change the outcome in a way that you may or may not intend. It might be something celestial, it might be something catastrophic. The slightest change is all it would take. And I'm trying as much as I can, because the reason why I haven't been employed in a while, one of the main reasons is because I want to make sure I'm qualified for my creation's behalf. Like, between two athletes, Michael Jordan and Michael Phelps. Michael Jordan is more successful at basketball than Phelps. And Phelps is a better swimmer than Jordan. They're both experts on their designated objectives and such when it comes to those two sports. But they were able to succeed that much because, one, they earned it, and two, they were more qualified. You expect Jordan to be better at basketball than swimming. You expect Phelps to be better at swimming than basketball. And I just hope that depending on what kind of short-term jobs I get, it wouldn't backfire in terms of whether or not I would be qualified on behalf of my creations. I just want to make sure I succeed. Like, if there's even any chance that I become that successful, I would like to give my parents a second honeymoon to the Dominican Republic, because my mother loved that place when she was on her mission. Note, my parents raised me in the LDS religion, even though I consider myself polytheist. I'd like to make sure that Not only do I become that successful ever, at all, but I also hope I don't become full of myself. Because one bad choice is all it would take to have it all crash down like the Hindenburg. And I want to make things work. For all of my affiliates, and for all those who put my creations into consideration. Just because it's not here and now doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It's data, nonetheless. It doesn't have to be realistic, it doesn't have to be logical. As long as you have an understanding of what's going on, that's what matters. The fact that people cry in sad movies and people scream in scary movies is because they become one with the story to the point where they feel like they're legitimately there and then, even though they're actually not. And that's why people get jump scares and how jump scares work. Because even though they're not truly there and then, even though they're not really in any danger at all, they still feel like they are. Because even though it's fiction, they considered it as legitimate. And therefore, it was successful. I'm sorry if I was any inconsistency to anybody watching this. I just want to make things work. I want to provide for my creations, and I want to make this life worth doing. And I just hope things would work out for everybody in whatever scenarios come into play, because since the dawn of my existence, I wished for the best of times. But sometimes you have to get your hands dirty in order to get the job done. There's a fine difference between wanting to do something and having to do something. I hope you guys understand what I have to put up with throughout my life. You don't have to accept my creations, I just hope that they feel like they mattered at all. Not just to myself, but to anybody other than myself. I hope you guys have a fine Halloween and a fine rest of the year and such. Hope you guys have a fine time. If you guys want, you could like, subscribe, and comment down below. You don't have to. It's a form of generosity, but it's not a priority, because I don't want to seem like that kind of person. So I hope you guys have a fine rest of the year and such. Until next time, and transmission.